we have a timekeeper here with a bell, which you just heard, and he's going to, at 4 minutes, ring the bell, and at 20 seconds ring the bell. If they don't stop at the end of that, the bell will continue, so there will be no point in them speaking. Now, interestingly, when I stood in for the EU, we were assessed on whether we could make our speech in 1 minute. And I said, Kirsten, a minute? How can I say what I want to say in a minute? She said, that's all you get in the EU. But we're not going to be in the EU, are we? No. So I'm going to let you have 5 minutes, particularly as sadly we don't have number 5. He may be very pleased because he may yet this day, become a father for the 6th time. So he should know how it's all about.
Fifth,
is it? I was told 6th. Yeah. Well, perhaps he could be having twins.
You may know something he doesn't.
Right.
I better not say anything
I
there.
was going to have a splendid system of putting their names, having playing cards, they could pick their playing, but they're sat down, so we'll let them. They're having a tough week, this lot. Now, the first one, who would have been here, is Ben Walker. Now, he who is in the delivery ward at this moment, he may send us a message to say it's arrived, when we can celebrate. So Peter, he said, would the chairman read his words? And I thought, well, actually, it's better for a man to read a man's words. So Peter has got, I would hope he would get it done well within the 5 minutes.
If it takes 2 minutes, it will be a miracle. So it says, hello everyone. My name is Ben Walker, and I must first start with an apology for why I could not be here in person today. My partner is currently pregnant and overdue, and we are at the hospital. It's not something I can miss, and I do hope that you will understand. UKIP is in crisis. This year we experienced our largest net loss of councillors in the local elections, and our worst European election result since 1994. The party has lost all major donors, and unsurprisingly, members are deserting UKIP in their thousands as we plummet below 1% in the polls. If we are to save our party, we must address these cold, hard facts immediately. UKIP must have a positive and radical vision for post-Brexit Britain. We are the party for hard-working, patriotic men and women, the majority who work long hours, pay their taxes and, like us, oppose the politically correct agenda of the Westminster elite. In the EU referendum, the British people demonstrated their belief in this country. Since then, they have been browbeaten by the political and media establishment, peddled by the BBC, but by staying true to our core values, UKIP can lead the way with a fresh and positive message. A crucial element of UKIP's past success has been you, the members. For little in return, grassroots members have donated their money and turned out to campaign. UKIP must go back to its grassroots by refocusing the party into a local campaigning machine, contesting and winning council seats. I have been pushing this vision of UKIP since 2017 and am disappointed to have seen that nothing has changed in this regard. I will prioritise and properly fund UKIP's network of branches while drawing on the experience of members for future party policy. My leadership manifesto has already been written by branch officers. I have been elected at multiple levels of local government, as a parish, town and district councillor, and as mayor, alongside having been a vice chairman of my local authority. I know this can work. In areas of the country where UKIP has achieved unprecedented success, branches have been ignored and regrettably collapsed. Thanet, Thurrock and Hartlepool, to name just a few. Under my leadership, I will focus my efforts to help grow membership, and raise essential funds in target areas, ensuring we do not squander future golden opportunities. I am honoured to have served our great country. As a leading hand in the Royal Navy, I have served in the Afghanistan War and the Falklands. Members of the armed forces and a majority of the British public have one principal thing in common: they believe in Britain. If you elect me as the new UKIP leader, I will show them that we are the party that believes in Britain and is ready to represent them. And that's the end of Ben's message.
So we will, strangely, work down the table. I think that's the best way. From London, Freddie Thatcher. Yes? He will then tell us what wonderful things he's going to do for the party and why we should vote for him. You can stand, Freddie, if you want to. I think it's easier.
Thank you. Friends, if only answering the question was as difficult as actually doing it, what needs to be done is the party has to be fixed. This means we need to stop doing the wrong thing. We're doing many, many things with the right motives, but they're simply not being done in the right way.
Can everybody hear?
Also, I promise you I have a big voice. I'm saving it up for when I go into rant mode, I believe, but I don't rant. We need to fix it. This involves two things. One, we need to get people back in who've deserted us for other parties or just been disillusioned with the entire process. Secondly, we need to heal the divisions within our own party, because they are deep divisions. For example, while I could say there are differences between all of us candidates here, there is a particular division between myself and one of them. This is somebody I absolutely respect and like and work with. I've worked with for 4 years and I've promoted in the sense of told him to do more things, which he's done, and so on. But there are these divisions. I believe I can be one to help heal these divisions as well. I have a huge sense of humour. So when people tell me, "Shut up, you prat, you talk too much," and I think, what took you so long to say it? Because I do talk too much. Part of my talking too much is out of frustration, though. It is frustration at direction, frustration at method, frustration at sometimes incompetence. When there are solutions there, it's almost like we were designed to fail. And I actually believe we were until the exit of certain prominent people last year. We were actually designed to fail. Now we're failing through natural muddle-up and muck-up. There is no design to fail working here. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. For those of you who have my CV here, it's the brief version. A far larger version is available. That's the CV. It's 3 sheets. And there's a letter from somebody here called Stuart Agnew. I did the transfer, didn't I? And he's telling you why perhaps you could vote for me. Some of you, if you don't have this, please get a copy from this table, because I will assume you have read this in about 3 minutes. It is the brief version. I'm a physicist and a mathematician, and I like to think I approach things analytically. However, I also have a daughter. My daughter is not particularly minded towards physical sciences, but when bringing her up, at one point she asked me, "Daddy, what matters most?" And I said, this comes from a physicist, mathematician. What matters most are things which we can't measure. We can't detect with equipment. We can detect here. So you have an analyst who can be brought to tears by driving through, as I did for the first hustings, contrary to it's hard to contradict someone who isn't here, but we haven't lost all our major donors, because I was speaking with one in one end of the country, opposite to Tiverton, where I had to get to for hustings. The result is I was late for the very first hustings in the southwest. I can speak a lot faster than this, by the way, if you want me to. Going along, I just hit it the right time, so the sun was coming through the trees. I actually had to pull over because my eyes were watering, because I remembered what we were fighting for. We were fighting for that Jerusalem. I speak as somebody who isn't religious. But we're fighting for something which is almost intangible, and it's going away. And we are the thin purple line. I would sincerely hope my fellow candidates, under what I believe will be my leadership, will help in this. I do know that this matters to them as well. I am a prolific communicator. Some of you in the room will have seen this face before, perhaps on emails, perhaps a little while ago, and that's mine. I communicate and argue as a matter of good taste. I am not afraid of engaging with the media. I relish it. I've been doing this for 4.5 years. I've been in UKIP for 5 years and a bit, and doing UKIP's work for another 2 years prior to that. I was very reluctant to join any political party. I'd never joined one before, and I did it out of a feeling of frustration and anger. Please vote for me. It's heart and mind. Thank you, sirs and madam.
He did it in the time.
Good
Richard Brain.
grief.
From London? Is that
Yes,
where
correct.
you're
Thank
from?
you very much,
Yeah.
Marita. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming here today. I know that some of you have had to come some distance. We all are here because we love UKIP and what it's done, the fact that it has changed not just the UK, but the world, in fact, and it's re-established the idea of nationhood and how important that is. We're here because we love our country, and it is no coincidence that UK is in the name of UKIP. I'm going to talk to you very quickly about Gerard. Many people obviously are upset that he's not able to stand. He has been serving the party for 27 years. He was a founding member, and he's worked hard during that time. He was an MEP for 15 or so years, and certainly some people question some of the decisions that he made when he was leader, but don't forget that he stepped in to be leader when he was at retirement age because he wanted to save the party, which was frankly on the verge of bankruptcy. And he did save the party. He did get back an enthusiasm. He grew the membership from about 18,000 up to nearly 30,000. So he did find a way of getting the party back on track. And the question of whether the decisions he made have been detrimental to the party is actually arguable. In the local elections this year, we averaged 4.5%, even though we only stood in, I think, 16% of seats. We need to stand more candidates. We need to give people the tools and the enthusiasm to stand. But the result, about 15 or 16%, I think it was, wherever we stood, was very good. And in some wards, we got as high as 42%. So the narrative that under Gerard everything's gone pear-shaped is actually false. Those elections were quite recent. They were May this year. The same goes to some extent for our European election this year, in that if you look at the 2017 general election, we got 1.8% of the vote nationally. We stood in 375, roughly, of the 650 seats. So even if you double that up, we're looking at about 3%. So, in fact, the performance in the Europeans this time, if you compare them to our support back then, weren't bad considering it was a low turnout. We got more than 500,000 people voted for us. So we need to have a measured approach to looking at our results this year and not go along with this mainstream media narrative that it's all been a big disaster, because it hasn't. Obviously, some people have left the party, some people have joined the party. There is disagreement, we all know that. But my view is that that disagreement can be broached. We can get over it. I think we will get over it. What I'm going to do about it, if you elect me as leader, is I'm going to make very clear that our rules about who can join the party will be upheld, and we don't need to change them. I don't think that Tommy needs UKIP, and I don't think that UKIP needs Tommy. I think that UKIP members should be free to support the cause that he is a part of, just as they should be free to support Douglas Murray, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Salman Rushdie, Bridget Gabriel, whoever they want. Anybody who wants to talk about that politics and the perils and the threats that we face, they should be allowed to support that. It doesn't need UKIP to do it. We are generally recognised for talking about British independence, which is a very important thing. So that's that. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Richard Brain. I'm a Londoner. I come from Chelsea. I've never voted Labour or Tory in my life because I've always looked at the EU and thought this is a new Soviet Union and it has to be stopped. And I've known that since I was a teenager. So I did work for the Referendum Party in the 90s, and I've voted UKIP since they went, and I became a member quite recently, 3 years ago, 2015, but I was a borough manager for Vote Leave and Grassroots Out, and we fought really hard in my borough actually to deliver a great result. We were the second highest Leave result in central London boroughs, amongst central London boroughs. So I fought very hard and campaigned very hard. The most important thing about that result is you. You made that happen. We all campaigned together. Everybody went out and worked for it. People put out leaflets. People talked to their friends in pubs. People had the guts to stand up and say, yeah, I'm going to vote Leave. I don't care what you think of me. You can call me a bigot or whatever you want, but I'm going to vote Leave because I believe in Britain. And we all did that. I mean, I don't think there's many people here. My guess is there aren't too many people who voted Remain here. If you did vote Remain, well done for changing your mind. You know, and God bless you. And you're very welcome. And we love the fact, there's more joy in the kingdom of heaven over one sheep that returns. Next, I want to talk about my fellow candidates, all of whom I know and like. And I look forward to working with them. Whatever the outcome of this leadership election, I will work with them however it works. Unity is important. The party needs to have unity. It may come as a surprise to learn that we are the most unified party in the country, because the Tories have ripped themselves in half. Labour ripped in half. I mean, well, the Lib Dems, admittedly, are looking reasonably unified. But I think that we are the most unified because we've achieved so much in bringing about this referendum, improving our point, to the extent that some of the new successful parties are actually named after UKIP policy. And the more other parties name themselves after our policies, the more we're winning. We don't have to form a government to have a big influence on politics in this country. So that's why we need to keep doing it. However small our share of the market, we need to grow our percentage and gain influence and change the way other parties present policy and do politics. So that is our goal. It is not necessarily to form a government, it is to influence and set the agenda. So we're actually the party that changes British politics and takes it in the direction that we all want to see. Thank you.
And now Helena Windsor, who runs Kent?
No, sorry.
Sorry, wrong one. It's down south, it's past London.
Down south,
Yes.
yes. Okay, I'm Helena Windsor. I've been a member since 1999. My husband and I joined when we knew we were going to vote UKIP in the 1999 Euro elections and thought, it's a party this small, we can't just vote, we've got to join it. Let's put this southerner in context. I'm descended from King's Lynn fishermen, and I've probably still got some cousins in Boston. So I'm chairman of my branch, East Surrey. We couldn't do anything like as well as up your way, but we did manage to get a Leave vote in Uber Tory Cambridge. And I've been chairman of Surrey since 2017, and this is where I've seen my problems. Now, Orwell said, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. There's a faction in UKIP that does not want to face up to the truth. This party last year turned up a blind alley into electoral oblivion, and we must change or die. I decided to put my name forward for leader because I believed I could turn our party around to make it an electoral force in British politics again, and because I'm so bloody minded, I never wanted to see the smirk on Nigel Farage's face when he boasted that he had closed UKIP down. And you may remember he actually said that in a TV interview. A month ago, when it seemed likely that Gerard Batten planned to retire, a very well-earned retirement, 6 or 7 of us intended to put our platforms for the revival of UKIP to you, the members. After Gerard was persuaded to stand again, those of us from that group who'd submitted applications didn't expect the outcome of the NEC meeting. Now, whilst I consider that it was reasonable for NEC members to face and debate the uncomfortable truth that a leader had made public associations which had a deleterious effect on the public perception of UKIP, I also feel that the process was handled badly. And this was evidenced by the reaction of good and true members, including those who agree that the party must change tack. The 5 approved candidates have now attended 3 hustings, where the effect of the NEC decision has been to focus more on Tommy Robinson, Islam and the outgoing leader than the policies and changes that we need to restore UKIP. We will never convince the voting public that we are a renewed political force without a clear change in the top team. Another truth that some will find uncomfortable. It was clear to me at the South East hustings that there were too many candidates with a very similar platform. Mike Hookham and I share a closely aligned vision of the steps that we need to take to restore confidence in the public that we're a political party offering sound policies on issues that they care about, and to restore our members' confidence in a leadership team that will respond to them. And as I've been travelling across, I've heard so many times people say, oh, nobody in the top takes an interest in us up here, down there. So I've therefore tonight withdrawn my application, and I'm going to endorse Mike Hookham as the leader who I believe has got the experience and vision to take UKIP forward beyond Brexit. And I would like to say thank you to all of those who've supported me, and particularly to my loyal campaign team. And I want to assure you all that I have not given up the fight to make UKIP great again. I've actually enjoyed these hustings. The best part of the hustings, when you've sat in the traffic jams, is actually to come and meet and engage with everybody. So without further ado, I'm going to retire from the fray, and I'd like to hand over to Mike Hookham, who is going to explain to you what's going to happen next. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Helena. That's a brave move. Well done.
Thank you, Helena, for that endorsement. Many of you in this room will know me. I've spent my life since 2007 working for this party. I've held probably every senior position in the party, right up to deputy leader. I've got a vision for the party. Helena shares that vision. I believe Ben Walker actually shares that vision. I want to restructure this party. I want to see information going from the membership up to the top and from the top down to the membership. This has never happened before. I've sat on many committees, regional chair, regional organiser, NEC. Information never ever changes. It never goes down, it never goes across. Nobody ever knows what the other one's doing. We have to change, we have to stop that. What I want to do, I want to make the NEC a regional committee, regional representation, so you, the membership, can get your thoughts and your wishes across to the people that's running the party. And to do that, if I am elected leader, the minute I'm elected leader, I will make the conference in Newport in September an EGM. An EGM where you people have a say in how you want this party to be run, how you want our policies to be pushed forward. And that EGM will make sure that you people, your thoughts, your wishes become a reality. We are at a juncture now. What you are choosing now is a leader, but also you are choosing which direction you want this party to go in. You either carry on the way we've been going and we become just a shouty, ranty group in Westminster smashing up the cameras of the BBC. Or you become a party that is becoming an electoral threat with common sense policies. Policies that the people out there will listen to, that will hear, that will vote for. A party that will bring back the donors. The donors will only put money into a party that is a success. At the moment, we are not a success. We are 1%. No matter what the people here say, we are failing. We are not winning elections. We have to start from the ground upwards. The same as the Lib Dems did. They was dead in the water. They started to win again because they started concentrating on council seats. And that's what we have to do. Concentrate on council seats, win those seats, and work our way up to winning Westminster seats once again. We can do that as a party and as a team. Everybody's got to work together. We've got a fantastic array of skills within the party that's never ever been tapped into. Never been tapped into. There's many, many people within their walks of life that can give something to this party. And we have to start listening to those people. We have to start putting them in positions of spokesmen. This is the vision I've got for this party. It's a vision that takes this party forward and doesn't just stop where we are now into oblivion. It takes the party forward into success where we can start winning votes. Let's start being proud again to wear that rosette on the street. Let's start being an electoral threat once again. Let's bring back those 4 million people that voted for us before. We can get those people back again. We lost in the European election. We lost in the council election. Don't care what you said. I lost my seat in the European elections because we were not talking about Europe. And what is the big crime here? There are two men, and Stuart will back me up on this, there are two men in this party, or was in the party, that are very good at speaking on Europe. One of them was Farage. Excellent on the TV, the radio, excellent. That man could speak on Brexit and on the European Union. Fantastic. And the other man was Gerard Batten. Gerard Batten was fantastic on Europe. But he never spoke about it because he was cornered. He was pushed into a cul-de-sac of his own making to talk about Islam, radical Islam, and Tommy Robinson. And we spent last night in Bolton 40 minutes talking about those issues and not talking about the issues that appeal to the working man and woman in this country. Schools, NHS, housing. What happens with their back pocket, the money in the back pocket? That's where we talk, that's where we speak on the street. So that's where we interact with the people. We're knocking on the doors and we have to get that back again. And all of the good people that we had that knew how to run an election have all gone to the breakfast party. That rubbish that Farage started up that's going to go nowhere, because once Boris does the deal, that is finished. We need to bring those people back in again. Our door has got to be open to those people, because those are the people that knew how to run a DNO, knew how to run an election, and we need those people back, and we need to be the proud party that I joined in 2007, that I was proud to join, proud to work for, and I've given all of my life, and my wife sat there and she'll be saying, you know, it gives more to the party than it does to this family, and I'm sorry, but that's true. That's what I've done. I need to get back that party that I joined, that I was proud to join. I want that party back. I want to be a success. I'm not a loser. I want to be a success, and I'm quite sure you people want to be a success as well.
So the first question that I had on that has been sent through in the last 2 days is, if you get elected, would you think about a name change? Yes or no? You don't have to do more than that. Would you think about a name change for the party?
I think about everything. Only fools have certainty, the wise have doubts. But it would take me a lot to remove the branding that we have had that has only been contaminated, if it has been contaminated, and I do believe to some extent it has been.
Yes or no, Freddie?
No, it has qualified. We would see to what? The UK needs to be independent. Freedom is a very important word. It's a little word which carries massive weight. And freedom and independence are very linked. We can't be free while we're independent.
Right. Thank you. Richard?
British independence. We mustn't change our name. Independence is so important. There are so many ways for us to be independent. We need to be independent from a lot more than just the EU. We need to be independent from data tyrants who want to learn everything about us and control our lives and stop us ever rebelling. And we're the party of rebellion, and we're going to keep rebelling. We need to be independent from Saudi and other interests that pump money into this country to try to change our culture and try to change us as a nation. We need to be independent from Russia. We need to be independent from all kinds of other forces out there, independent from Marxism and socialism. So independence is absolutely key. And independence, by the way, also means not being dependent on a welfare state, not being dependent on others. It's about standing up and being counted in the world. We must never lose our independence, and that's why independence is the key word in our party's name. We mustn't change it.
Thank you. Mike?
We changed once with Lenny the Lion. That cost the party £10,000. the UKIP Independence Party, UK Independence Party, in advertising, probably worth about £5 million. I think in the future we're going to have to change that. We're going to have to change our name and our direction. But it's a long job and it costs a lot of money. So we will do that, and I'm quite up for that, but it's not going to happen overnight. But once we're out of Europe, and that'll be October the 31st, we're away from Europe, I believe we need to change that name, and we need to start talking about national policies and local policies. So yes, I believe at some point in the future we're going to have to change our name and change what we are perceived as. At the moment, you know, we are perceived very badly, so we've got to change that. But the name change, it won't be Lenny the Lion, because I won't put that up there. It was the FA anyway, and you know, the FA is football, and it's a wrong-shaped ball for me. I'm rugby, rugby league actually. So yeah, I would actually, in the future, yes, we need to change our name.
Right, thank you. As anybody has heard me say, I don't think it's ever a good idea to change a name, although you might want to change the thing. And my example has always been, if you were going to start a chemist shop, would you have called it Boots? They would fight tooth and nail to hang on to that name, and we should fight. But I agree, the emphasis on the independence. Right. Now, the next lot of questions are almost quite similar, and you've partly changed them. So I think if I read them out, then you might want to pass quickly on part of them, but I'll read them all three. What makes the candidates believe they are suitable for leadership of UKIP? Well, I think we've heard that, haven't we? Yeah? How will candidates go about getting ex-members to rejoin UKIP? And what will be done differently by the candidates to make sure we can and will continue to fight and succeed in elections, local or national? And how are you going to stabilise the party from the grassroots up? So sorry, you've got suitable leadership we've done, get ex-members back to rejoin, how are we going to fight and succeed in local and general elections, and how are you going to stabilise the party so that we can go forward together? And again, I think you may have covered that, so don't worry about those. Rejoining is one of the ones, isn't it? And local elections. How do we fight the local elections? Because we're all, in our branches, we've lost a lot of people who now have either gone or won't stand until things are better. We've got to get them back. Okay? Mike, you'd like to start this time.
Well, as I say, we've gone over why I believe I'm the man to lead this party. As I say, I've done every senior job within the party. Bringing the membership back, I think we will start bringing membership back once Farage has gone off to help Donald with his little party over there in America, and the Brexit party is no more because Boris has done the job. But we will bring people back once they start seeing us as a credible party again that's winning seats. And we will win seats, and I keep saying, you'll hear me all night, it's about common sense, it's about common sense policies. Policies that people on the street will vote for. They will start bringing people back in. What was the other one? Or is that all of it?
The stabilising.
Stabilising again. We will stabilise this party by becoming a credible party once more. By becoming a party that you're proud to go out and campaign for. And that again is down to policies. It's down to policies. And it's policy, policy, policy. It's got to be that. We've got to be out there giving the policies that the people want. Do that and you'll become an electoral threat again.
Right. Thank you. Richard.
Yes. First of all, this is a lot of hot air. There's a huge inconsistency in what Mike is saying. I've just heard him say, once we're out, he said, when Boris does the deal, and just now he said, when Boris has done the job. And yet he started his speech tonight all about how we need to get back to campaigning about Brexit. So which is it? Are we going to leave, or are we going to campaign for Brexit? What's the plan? Because you don't seem to have thought it through at all. That's utterly inconsistent. Okay, how do you get ex-members to rejoin? First of all, you have to go beyond Brexit. You have to look at our independence. You have to look at how we can actually give people a better life, how we can actually influence our government to bring back policies that are actually going to help people. And I'm afraid to say immigration is probably the biggest elephant in that room. Immigration is making it very, very hard for people to get access to services, to housing, schools, hospitals, wages, jobs, all of that. So we have to do more of that. Okay, how are we going to fight and succeed in local elections? I am a software developer. I have written some canvassing software. I have also written automatic leaflet software, and I am going to write a policy forum that has peer review so that our NEC and leader see which issues are most important to the members of the party every month, and they will discuss and think about implementing policy for the members according to what the members want.
Thank you.
I agree in part with what Richard has said, and I agree in part with what Mike has said, in part. To get ex-members to rejoin, we certainly must not keep doing the same thing. I'm not the only physicist at this table. Richard Feynman was a great physicist, possibly the greatest one of the last 100 years, and he said, when experimental results clash with theory, throw out the theory. So whatever the theories are, we're at 1.18% in Peterborough, and that's not good.
Or the method.
Yeah, the two are linked, sir. Now, Einstein also said doing the same, since you asked for it, doing the same thing again and again is the hallmark of insanity. Exactly those words. Definition of insanity, indeed. However, needs to stabilise, that's obvious. We need to stop more people leaving as well. And we're not going to do it because the lot right now howling that Gerard's being hounded out will be replaced by the lot who are saying that the NEC is being treated unfairly and vilified. These are linked things. Now, when I'm a leader, the job will be doing this rationally and doing it with passion as well. Passion which you perhaps haven't seen me display as yet, but passion and anger at how we got to this state within UKIP and got to this state within the country. The country is of course what we project outside. Within UKIP is what we project inside, and then we persuade our people. Thank you.
Thank you. I think as one candidate actually named another candidate, that candidate should have a chance to respond. Is that fair? Yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mario. What I said at the beginning, you obviously wasn't listening. We handed that job of Brexit over because we fought for 27 years. It was this party that won Brexit. You people that won Brexit. We handed that over to Farage because we stopped talking about it and we started talking about another subject. That's what I was saying. We have to start getting out there now and be a credible party. The only way we can is by winning local elections. And as for his software, which is very, very good, the software that Richard is pushing will tell us where, in different areas, the people are going to vote for us. But that's very, very well. It's great. It's good stuff. It's fantastic. It's the future. But if we haven't got people, foot soldiers, knocking on that door, then it's no good. It's rubbish. We haven't got those people. We keep being told, well, we have 30,000 members at one point. I was losing branches, not membership, branches in Yorkshire. There was no discerning up. Where was the 30,000 people? Because I never saw them. My region, Yorkshire, North Lincolnshire, was the strongest region in the party. And it's virtually decimated. We're struggling now to get branches up and running again. So without the foot soldiers, the software is nothing. It's rubbish. Sorry, Richard.
You don't have to apologise.
We like a bit of spark, don't we?
Well, you might as well spice it up a bit.
Right, now there's one here which almost covers, and I think it's something we want to put to bed now and have a discussion about, and then we can move on to the future. But this question is written out, while I'm sure none of the candidates would regard themselves as racist or xenophobes, how comfortable are they with the growing influence of Islam in British public life and the prospect of their granddaughters or great-granddaughters may be living in Britain where women are required to wear the hijab? If they are comfortable with that prospect, fine. If not, how are they going to promote the opposite policies? Okay? Right, you going to start with it?
I'll start. Firstly, I'm a first-generation immigrant myself. For me to talk about immigration is very, very easy instead, because I can back off most of this stuff, which is just a load of nonsense. Immigration, some of it's usually needed, because it's like water. Too much of it, we drown. Right now, we're right at the drown level. We're beyond the drown level. It's ridiculous. It's become preposterous. But even if all migration was stopped, and we actually stopped people leaving as well, which is very important here, because there's a big difference between the people coming in and the people coming out. The people going out, they are different in all sorts of respects. We would still have the process that has been Marietta correctly described as Islamization. This is simply a matter of numbers. I'm a mathematician as well. It's going to happen. And unless something radically changes, there will be three phases. One is the Muslim majority, two is the Muslim voting age majority, and three is the Shariafication. Now, whether you go from 1 and 2 are guaranteed unless something changes because of the differential birth rates. I don't get my information from the BNP website. I get them from the Office for National Statistics. These are simply, it cannot be argued with. You cannot compete with a 3.5 children per...
Can I say that I think we'll let this one go on for 2.5 minutes, because I think it's so important. Yeah,
yes, I'm not sure as well. Some of the ringing, some candidates got 2 minutes more than me for the first time. That's just a fact. Do we know whether you're giving a 1 minute notice?
I'm actually giving... It's a 1 minute argument, or a 2 minute
half
argument.
a minute. A minute and a half. Right, so there's no warning on that.
That was the warning.
All right, that was the warning. Right, reset. Good. Now it's all clear. I'm sure the questions were with others as well.
We'll give Freddie another minute and a half. Yeah. So you can have 3 minutes on this. Yeah.
Now, I've certainly not lost my thread on this. So we've got these 3 stages. We cannot know that we'll move from the second to the third stage ever. However, a disturbing trend is when we look at statistics. I am very comfortable with surveys done of the attitudes of older people of the Islamic faith who are resident in Britain. The younger ones contain, again, in the majority they are fine, but there is a significant minority which is worried, who believe that, for example, the concept of one law for all, which should be our watchword, one law for all, is absolutely abhorrent to them. And these are the younger ones, and the younger ones will become the dominant ones, simply because of the way the population pyramid works. There are 2.5 to 3 children per woman currently who are of the Islamic persuasion in Britain. The ones who are actually born in Pakistan, Bangladesh or India, but mainly the first 2 countries, the birth rates are 3.9, 4.7. But this is overwhelming. We have to address this issue rationally and humanely. But otherwise those things will happen. As sure as night follows day, it will happen.
The first thing I want to say is that we all have a duty to treat everybody with love and respect in a civilized society. Remember that. We are not talking about trying to persecute individual people. We are talking about an ideology, and we are talking about whether we want that ideology to become a supremacist ideology in this country. The issue of being a second-class citizen. When MPs are sworn in Parliament, if they're Christian, the clerk of the Parliament says which book we like and passes them a Bible. But if they're Muslim, he doesn't pass them the Quran because he's unclean and he's not allowed to touch it, even with gloves on. And so he points at it so that they can come and pick it up themselves and take their oath on that. We have accepted this alien ideology which is divisive and which is dangerous and which we need to actually talk about a lot more, and we need to be much more serious about whether we want this to become the ideology of power in this country as it has in more than 50 other countries. How do we stop that? One, we have to uphold our law. It is important to have one law, but frequently our law is not upheld. We have laws against incitement, and yet there are people handing out Qurans in Leicester Square off a trestle table, a book which tells people to kill us to please God. Okay? We've got to stop incitement in public places like that. We've got to stop bigamy, welfare abuse. We've got to educate people in this country so that they understand what the Quran says, what Islam really is. but they understand that it contains 100 instructions to maim and slaughter innocent people, homosexuals, the infidel, women, apostates, people who reject Islam. So we need to understand what is in that book, and we need to educate ourselves and our children about that. We also need to avoid balkanization, where we have towns and cities becoming increasingly Islamic to the point where, essentially, as a non-Islamic person, you're simply not welcome there. And we've got to stop that. I don't know how you stop that, but we must stop it, because that is what we're becoming.
We spend so much time talking about this, and Richard just said it doesn't have to stop this. If you want to change anything in this country, if you want to stop these things, you want to stop the multiple marriages, you want to stop the Sharia law. There's only one law, there's one law in this country, and that's what it should be. If you want to stop that, if you want to stop anything, you have to get into Westminster. That is the way you stop it. And you do that by getting voted in, and you get voted in by getting the people out there to support you and to vote for you. That is the only way we're going to do this. If you want to go shouting, as I've said before, on the streets of London, that is not going to change a thing. Not going to change anything. You have to be in the seats of Westminster where you can put a law forward and get it voted through so you can change these things. Please, as a party, we've got to change. We've got to stop talking about this and start talking about what the people want. And we've got to get into power, we've got to get into councils, we've got to get into Westminster if we want to change things. The only way you're going to do it.
That means lying or giving in.
No, it doesn't mean lying or giving in. It means giving the people what they want. We are not lying about anything. If there are children being raped out there, it's illegal. It's not because they're Muslim, it's because they're paedophiles. I'm not going to lie about anything. I've never lied as a politician, and I'm not going to start now. And I'm not giving in to anybody. I want this party to win elections.
But your policies will not be reflecting reality, will they?
Of course they will. Of course they will. What's reality? NHS that's collapsing through mass immigration. What's reality?
We won't get any justification until we take it in our own hands.
So we're going to have riots on the streets then? That's what you want. I'm not part of that.
You allowed Mike to answer me because I mentioned him and his answer directly. He's just mentioned my answer directly, so please may I have the same courtesy.
I was agreeing with you.
Okay. Mike, by the way, let me just say, I'm actually a big fan of Mike. You may not have realised that, but he just said to stop this, to change things, you have to get into Westminster. Well, my view is that Mike has done incredibly well, and all of the people in UKIP have done incredibly well at changing the world, and we never got into Westminster, but we did change the world. And it's important to understand that when you start getting to 10% or even 5% and you're taking away seats and margins and the other parties are looking at it, they cave. And that's how our system works. And they did cave on the Brexit referendum, and then we got our referendum, and then, by God, did we hammer it when we had our chance and we won it. So we do not have to get into Westminster next year in order to actually make progress on this point. What we do have to do is talk about it, talk about policies that can actually make changes and policies that can protect our country, our culture, our history, our identity.
You want another quick word?
Yes. Right. The point is,
He wasn't mentioned in any of the answers.
quite so, but it's my turn now. I'm sure all of you mentioning it. I know how to do it. That's the difference. Because we can't ignore this. We can't ignore this. It makes us hypocrites. But we have to do it smart. There's a big difference between running around on the streets and yelling outside Parliament and so on, and having to humiliatingly see our UKIP promoting videos which are allegedly the police browbeating freedom lovers, while what I see is the opposite. I see a row of policemen being harassed and having bottles and cans thrown at them and so on. This is not going to get us votes, and without votes we don't have power. We have to approach this attitude smartly, not rush in like a bull at the gate, however not ignore it. Of course this is a tightrope. I know how to walk tightropes. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been running businesses since I was 15. I know how to walk tightropes. I have never been a public sector employee. I have never relied on other people to make my decisions for me. These are going to be difficult ones. I can't tell you exactly how, but I can tell you the result. The result will be we will bring this out, but not in ways that open us to everyone shutting their ears to us. Because it's no use, then we're just a howling mob. Here, precision is required. The name of my ex-software house was Precision. And precision is needed here, because the mainstream media will be awfully horrible to us. Every time they told me they were going to talk about Brexit, the BBC, they talked to me about Tommy Robinson. Now, they didn't do that again. They did that 3 times. Each time I handed them their guts for garters, because I won the debate. And the debate was swiftly moved by me, simply because I conceded all of Tommy's criminal record and all that. I'm not going to debate any of that. Nor is he innocent of what he has been charged. He is actually guilty of at least 2 of the 3 things which he has currently been convicted of. But, he has been overly harshly sentenced. And are we actually saying that his central angst, his plank, the thing which annoys him, is not true? No, we are not. The BBC, I asked them, are you saying that what mainly motivates Tommy is not something which is of grave public concern? Now, they tried yes, they tried no, and they tried don't know with me, and each one I won. Just different ways. Different interviewers, they clearly weren't doing their research first. The last one I actually managed to ask the BBC chap whether he was one of this sort. Thank you.
The aggressive media interviews. One's developing it for the young, and the other's how you cope with it. Well, I think we've actually said how you both cope with it, but how you cope with it and how you would promote it for the young. Yep. Well, I was going to start with Richard, but he's coming, is he?
He's on his way.
Right. Right, Richard, the questions we're asking this time to start with. What would the candidates do to promote UKIP through new media like YouTube and to strengthen the party's appeal to a younger generation? And do you feel able to cope and win through in aggressive media interviews? So the one is how you would encourage the young, and the other is how you cope with the aggressive media. So, we're going to start with you, because you were in the middle and you keep being in the middle. So, yeah.
Great.
But if you want me to read them again, that's fine.
That's okay, I could talk on that.
Now, I'll give you 2 minutes. Each can have 2 minutes on this one.
Yes. So I'm a software developer, and I've already written canvassing software. I've also written automatic DIY leaflet software that's going to enable you actually to send policy. Whenever you put a new policy in, it's going to get emailed straight to your regional organiser, who will say yay or nay, you can run with that policy on your local election leaflet or your constituency election leaflet. And so the party is going to see which policies are popular and being suggested by members. And that way, the party can see who's doing what, how successful it is, so we'll actually have a proper record with a proper paper trail or software trail, so that you can see what's being done there. There are other ways of getting through to people. If Facebook or Twitter are shutting you down, we've seen in this recent European election, Carl Benjamin, terrible, going out and sitting at a table, sitting at a chair, with a microphone, with a speaker, and having real debate in village centres, in town centres, and sitting out there publicly and talking to the public. And it's been successful. He's getting profile. They're filming it. They're putting it online. People are watching it. Millions of people are watching it. So that is a method that I want lots of branches to be doing, to be going out and having public debate, literally in the town square with people. Another part of the software program that I have is to build a forum. We used to have a forum. It didn't work very well because there was no peer review. So people would post some silly comment that was racist or was, whatever it was unacceptable. And it became a problem because it couldn't be managed. The software that we're going to build is going to take away the burden of managing what goes online, because us as UKIP members will be able to press a button saying, this comment, this suggestion, this policy suggestion is problematic in some way, and it will be taken down, it will be looked at by moderators, and they will decide if it should be there or not. But the main thing about it is that we'll all be voting for the policies suggested, and so everybody will be able to see, including the NEC, each month, which policies are really popular and which policies members want the party to implement.
I think that's brilliant, but Karen said that is the most classic political answer I've ever heard. Because it didn't answer either of the questions, but what he said was very interesting. What we wanted was the appeal to the younger generation and how you cope with aggressive media interviews. Sorry, Richard. Yeah.
Well, to say that Carl Benjamin's way is the only way to appeal to the young is absurd. There'll be many more. I have a warm and competitive relationship with Carl Benjamin, who has agreed, I understand, to, yes indeed, nod, to do one-to-one with me on whether freedom of speech actually should have some limits. After he's lost it, we will watch it on a broadcast. There, let me quote Churchill here, which is being misquoted a lot. All this stuff about never yield to superior force, all that is true, but let's not cut the quote short, because what Churchill went on to say, I'm a great Churchill quoter, is except in matters of honour and good sense. There is no honour and good sense in telling two ladies, mother and daughter I think, both of them look like they have Down syndrome, to tell them, I'm sorry my dear, you've just got to accept it, you're retards. What does that make out that our lead candidate's saying like that? That's ridiculous, that's just stupid. And why do I have to face stuff from sitting on Victoria Derbyshire show where I was sent there simply to make sure that I was humiliated? Two ladies on each side of me showing me apps which threats on their phones, messages from people on using various forms of media, threatening to rape them and referring to Carl Benjamin and so on, stuff like this. Of course it was a set-up. Who knows whether this was real or not, but this is taken the debate over. There is no honour and good sense in making jokes about raping women. There is none whatever. It's just not true. It's just completely stupid, utterly stupid. And this is what Carl Benjamin was doing. Now, earlier he was doing it when he was a comedian. Black humour maybe, but it was. But the last one was done when he said, no, I'm paraphrasing his words, I might even rape her, but only if there was enough beer. Now, that's I telling her she's ugly. One doesn't understand the nuances of the English language, and of course we are UKIPers here, so we're more intelligent than the average public, but my God, the media had loads of fun with it. And each time we were slammed on this, I wanted to talk about Brexit and getting out efficiently, and each time they bang on about what Carl Benjamin said about Jess Phillips. We are shooting ourselves in the foot with machine guns here. We are intelligent. Carl Benjamin is an intelligent young man. He has agreed that he will mend his ways or win the debate against me, which he won't.
Well, following Freddie.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I've already got a very, very good team, which I got together over the 5 years in MEP that do all my social media. I don't do any of it. I used to do it, but it used to just drive me crackers. So I don't do any of it now. I've got two. James is one of the guys at the back there that does that, and another lad in Belfast, Johnny Lavery. At its peak, we was getting 1 million to 1.5 million hits on all of my social media. It was very successful. So I've already got that in there. That would appeal to the younger kid. As for the mainstream media, over 5 years I've been on everything. I've been live right across America. I've done Russia Today, I've done the BBC, I've done ITV, I've been wired up for 12 hours in the jungle in Calais, where the BBC 2 tried to trip me up and say I was a racist vigilante. I've done all of it, so I've already been there and I've done that because that was my job at the time, so I'm quite confident that I can handle that.
Was there a measurable spike in recruitment?
Sorry? With what?
Was there a measurable spike in recruitment to the membership after any of those?
Well, that was as a leader. That was just as an MEP getting the message of the party across there.
I mean, if the message was well received.
There was a measurable actually. You're asking that. When I spoke, when the time I was on American TV and everything, that's when they blew up and Stuart will remember this, when they blew up the underground in Brussels. And at that time I was probably one of the first MEPs into the Parliament. And I spoke for, as I say, for 24 hours. It started at 8 o'clock, it went right through to 8, 9 o'clock on the night. Herman Kelly, who was the press officer in Parliament, said that had a 3% spike on the results that we've got, that me being on there for that day, speaking on that. So he measured it, I don't know, he came back to me and he said that was absolutely fantastic, what you've done for that, the day on that. And it was just lucky because I was in the Parliament at the time. And nobody else was allowed in there. They just shut it down. And basically I was locked in. And they had to come to me because I was in there. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question here from Stuart Agnew, actually, which I think ties in with what you've just all been referring to. And I think we might do this with a show of hands rather than a long discussion, because again, we could just go round and round. Is Carl Benjamin an asset or a liability to the party? So can we have a show of hands that is he an asset to the party? What do you think? So what does anybody think? Can somebody count that for me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 people? 12 and a half.
It needs
13,
reforming.
13,
Needs reforming. Reformed Carl, not the current Carl. No, we can't have that.
And a liability? Five for liability and 12, which presumably means some are...
I counted seven for liability.
Seven liability, thank you. And did you count 12 for the...
12 and a half.
12 and a half.
Freddie's a half.
Who refused to
There was
answer?
another half there. So
How many abstained?
How many abstained?
How many
Yes.
abstained?
Quite. Need to know more.
So how many is that? You're good at counting?
7, 8, 9.
I make it
1,
9.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
One
9,
over
10,
there, one behind the
11,
camera.
12,
They're 12. Now there are more coming up. Yes.
14.
So, and the grand total being?
14, I think.
So,
14 abstained.
14 abstained.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? We've got a really mixed view.
there's got to be a half somewhere there, so another half.
Thank you. I think we've covered that one. Right. A Telegraph survey in 2017 revealed 8 out of 10 university lecturers are left-wing. Are academics indoctrinating their students? Is freedom of expression being excluded? If so, what can be done about it? Mike, start with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the universities are left
I
wing.
think a minute on this one because I want to get to some pre-questions.
All right, I think they are left wing. I think they are indoctrinating our kids. I was out campaigning on the streets of Holland. There's a lad came up to us. I think he was about 14, something of that region, and he went to he goes to a school that my lad went to. And he come up and he said, I told my teacher that I was interested in UKIP and supported UKIP, and she threw him out of the class. This is the level that you've got now, that you know, our teachers are indoctrinating our kids, and it goes right through into university. And many of the universities are funded by the European Union. So you can even see it's coming from there. They're feeding our kids right from a young age. I've got a book at home, and it's a cartoon book for very, very small children, telling you how fantastic the European Union is. And it's indoctrination, and it starts at a very, very early age. And again, we've got to change that. We've got to get somebody into Westminster so we can stop this indoctrination and change it. And it's been going on for many years, and it's just got to stop.
Thank you. Richard?
Yes. Are academics left-wing? Yes. Are they indoctrinating our children? Yes. It's very dangerous. We've got a growing sympathy for Marxism in this country. We all know, most of us here are old enough to remember the horrors of the 20th century. When I was a young man, a teenager, at school, people used to wear Solidarność badges in sympathy with the Polish miners because we knew what was happening in the Soviet Union and what a terrible, tyrannical regime it was. And that's just one of the socialist experiments that went wrong in the 20th century, costing the lives of certainly many tens of millions, possibly over 100 million people. So people go around wearing Che Guevara t-shirts, and he was literally used to demonstrate how to assassinate political prisoners by shooting them in the head and then say, there you go, that's how you do it, get on with it. So absolutely, this is a very, very dangerous trend. I went to a lecture a few weeks ago by Roger Scruton, who, as we know, has lost his position because he stands against this kind of ideology. And he said, what can we do about the universities in this lecture? And he didn't have an answer. He said, either shut them down or have new universities that are purely commercial and not state funded, where people can actually express themselves in a broad political way. So those are possibilities. But yes, our universities are a disaster now.
The statistics quoted were that 80% of them left. That's clearly ridiculous. The person who put that there is probably a lefty himself. It's about 95%. It's about 95%. I have recently mentored a young man who is now in his final year of at Trinity College, Cambridge, reading mathematics, and he says it's about 90% there at Cambridge. This is our best educational institution by far. This is outrageous, and it's not the same problem in America. It's there, but it's at 60%, maybe 65%. Here it is literally 95%. If it's 90% in Cambridge, this is outrageous. How are they getting there? Common purpose is putting us there. Richard has correctly said, referred to Marxism. Let me put there in my more dynamic rhetoric that the kill rate per minute you start ringing every time I raise my voice. I've got it now. I get about 1/3 of the time everyone else, but I'm going to continue. I am going to continue. I suspect a closet Marxist there, because they're all over the place, and we're not having it anymore. We are certainly not putting up with it. This is absolutely outrageous. They do it, they lie, they cheat. The kill rate for Marxism, the kill rate is unprecedented. Hitler and the Nazis were nothing like it in how fast they killed. Over 1 century, Nazism had so many things wrong with it that it couldn't last long. The main thing is that we fought hard and we beat it. But the Marxists subverted us. And they're in there and they're getting stronger. The 21st century might turn out to be one where the kill rate is even higher. That's enemy number one. We bash on at that. We don't need to keep mentioning a particular religion. We stick that on the one law for all. And we be smart about it. As Mike has said, we fight those who are breaking the law. Whatever religion they are, whatever skin colour they are, whatever anything they are, we'll apply it equally. Equal offence, of course, if they're Tommy Robinson, you get about 3 times the sentence. That we've noticed as well. And I'm not a Tommy apologist. Why does this work? This works because they recruit from their own pool, and also Common Purpose. Common Purpose, which is an official organisation, which actually holds courses for people to teach them how to subvert fairness, the law, etc., to achieve their aims, which are partly globalist, certainly left-wing, and they hate us, and we must beat them.
In future, I'm going to have microphones wired up and timed and switch them off.
Freddie doesn't need the microphone.
I don't need a microphone.
There's electrodes in the chair.
Right, we've got now one. I think these have come in after the break, so there are things people wanted to ask. What would you do about the lack of impartiality in the civil service and the BBC? Right. What can you do about it, except change it from underneath? Right. You can have a minute on it, each of you. A minute. You're in the EU.
Is it our minute? Is it our minute or Freddie's minute?
No, it's going to be my minute. Right. Freddie, you can start.
Can I have the question again?
What would you do about the lack of impartiality in the civil service and BBC?
Close down the BBC for one. The licensing is an outrage. This is Pravda. Do any of you know what the word actually means? I expected it to be 100%. Yes, indeed. And the BBC tells truth as well. Their truth. It is a relentless organisation. It does not stop. It never ceases. They meet every morning early to make up the news for the day. Decide what is priority. Certain things I have tried to convince many people who are hard against us, and usually I do manage to convince them, that you can't find the truth by watching the BBC, even if you invert it, what they say, simply because they won't report at all anything which they can't manipulate. It just doesn't get reported. So certain events don't happen. This is censorship. 1984 has been used as an instruction manual, not a warning from George Orwell. So, the civil service, well, unfortunately, we have to get rid of this common purpose. Now, my own view as somebody from the private sector is there are far too many people in the civil service. It's incivil anywhere, and it's an insult. We need to get the competent ones inside. The whole ethos has to change, and it's now Mike's turn.
Mike, we come around another way.
I'd come on after Freddie every time.
Sorry, do you want to change?
No. BBC, scrap the licence fee.
Yep.
Stop the funding, stop giving him money, stop giving Gary Lineker millions. He's now being given a voice on social media that nobody else has been given. They've allowed him to do that. Scrap that fee, it's absolutely disgusting. The BBC started off as a public service provider. It no longer provides a public service. It is just a left-wing biased organisation. So just cut the funding off. If they want to carry on, let them go up to the public sector and get money that way. Civil service, it was a civil service that's kept us in the European Union for these 3 years while they prevaricated on what they're going to do. It was a civil service, not Theresa May that was doing the deal, it was a civil service. It's another left-wing bloody Trotsky organisation, and they've got to be rooted out and get rid of these people. Ollie Robinson as his nickname is, he stopped us leaving the European Union. Basically, it was him and his civil servants that did all of that. We used to see him coming into the Parliament, these prats. They've got to go. We've got to get rid of these people. We've got to root them out.
Thank you. UKIP minute.
A UKIP minute. First of all, Ollie Robinson is not the elder brother of Tommy Robinson. I think his name is Robbins, in fact. And yes, he is the problem big part of the problem that we've had over the last 3 years. I do not say shut down the BBC. There are many talented people there. They should simply have to operate in a proper commercial environment where people have the choice whether they wish to fund it or not. And of course, that will actually have a dramatic effect on the BBC because an awful lot of what it produces isn't really commercially competitive or viable, and customers will quite quickly change the tune of the BBC if they're actually choosing whether to pay for it or not. The BBC banned Churchill broadcasting between, I think, 37 and 39. He used to go over to France to broadcast to Britain. So they're banning people like this. It's an old tradition of theirs. And so, yeah, that's shutting down. One other thing is, how do you change the civil service? I think that it's very important to look at the influence of, particularly Common Purpose, as has been said, which is a political organisation, and whether it should be able to have the sort of control that it has over people who work in those industries. But there are many good civil servants, and we shouldn't be too broad in our categorisation of this. We need to look at people who have actually failed to be impartial, like Robbins and others, but not forget that there are good people in the civil service who, unfortunately, are forced to work for people like Robbins and their goals, are forced to do that because otherwise they'll lose their jobs, and like all of us, they've got to earn a living. So don't be too harsh on people in these organisations, but we must change them.
Would the candidates, and I think this is a yes and a no, would the candidates support forcible repatriation of immigrant wrongdoers without question? Presumably that's if they have been found guilty.
What about speeding?
Oh, well, where am I going to go?
Question's not exact.
Right. Forcible repatriation of immigrants, wrongdoers. Without question, you're going to send them back if they have been...
Major crimes.
Felonies.
Which?
Felonies.
Felony.
Felonies. A felony is well defined in law.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah. What does everybody do?
Serious crimes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Felonies.
Yeah. Do you think they should be?
Are we going to speak or?
Yeah, I think speak. But a quick one.
Too late, Richard.
Switch the cameras off and I'll tell you what I really think. Felonies, most certainly, immediately, without any question, convicted of felony. If they want to appeal it, maybe wait for the appeal process to go out, but have them, the appeal process maybe has to be accelerated and they're held somewhere where they won't just disappear, because otherwise that's what happens. We pass these wonderful laws and then they just, am I allowed to use words like, which rhyme with rugger, are off. And then that's just not permissible. So, held somewhere which is safe for them and where we know where they are. And after the appeal process has been, a very accelerated one has been exhausted, out. That's it. There's no question about that. This is for felonies. Absolutely. This is ridiculous. We are the fourth most densely populated, largish country. We omit city-states like Vatican City and so on. Of largest countries in the world, we are number 4 in terms of population density in England. Only Bangladesh, South Korea and Taiwan are more densely populated. We are more densely populated than India. And India says it's too crowded. This is ridiculous. And we're borrowing from Indian banks. We're borrowing from Indian banks to give foreign aid to India. So how about that too? Madness.
Yes, Richard.
Yes.
Sorry, Mike.
Go on now, Richard.
I agree. Felonies is the borderline, the demarcation. When I was younger, I actually joined the campaign against all of us having to carry ID cards. I think it's an infringement of our civil liberties. We are free British people, and we should be able to walk around and do what we want without having to justify who we are all the time. But when it comes to the issue of how you decide who actually is subject to these rules about repatriation, don't forget that it's very important that we actually record who comes into this country. And we need to have a biometric thorough test. If you go into the United States, you have to give your fingerprints. We need to have a really proper biometric system so that we know who are visitors and so that we can make sure that they've either paid insurance for healthcare or that if they commit crimes, we can identify them properly. And we also can control their access to welfare that they're not entitled to. So, this comes to the elephant in the room, which is integration. Who is an immigrant, who isn't? Integration is crucial because the immigrants that we have, who are great people, need to become part of our society.
Of course, if we've accepted these people into the country and given them a safe haven, and they've abused that by committing a serious crime, is what we're talking about, a serious crime, then they should serve their time and then be sent back, as Trump says, to where you came from. But the problem with a lot of these people coming in, and we saw this when we was over in Calais, a lot of the English charities was telling them to destroy any identification papers. So you didn't know where they'd come from. They used to say, we come from Afghanistan, come from Syria, from wherever. You never knew where these people had come from. Many young men walking the streets there, you didn't know where they was from. Or what background they had. So you've got a problem with that. Everybody say, let's send them back. But send them back to where? You've got to know where these people have come from. But, it just seems that we're getting the world's criminals coming into this country now. Any pickpocket in London, you can say it's a Romanian. A lot of the murdering that's going over in Lincolnshire is the Eastern Europeans, Polish. So, where do we send them back to if we don't know where they've come from? Where do we send them back to? That is the problem. Well, that is it, because they shouldn't come over in the first place. We should stop them at the border and say, you're not coming in. That's what we should be doing. And stop them there. Stop them in the Mediterranean. Stop them coming across the Mediterranean. Stop them killing the kids in boats that are not seaworthy. That is a shame. That is a crime to allow them kids to come across like that. That's where we should be stopping them.
I know there are some who are... Sorry, yeah. I know there are some people who really want to open up a question. We are getting quite tight on time because we're supposed to finish at 9. But we've got 2, right, 3, right. Would you like to start then with your question?
This last point.
Can you stand up and then everybody can hear what you're saying?
Earlier on the panel we're all in agreement that there'd be one law for all. And now they're saying that the law would be different for certain sort of people.
Right. But isn't
then the punishment would be different.
So what you're saying is that...
I'm putting my
mainstream
media hat on, and this question would be unanswered.
Right. Mike, your turn to start.
Quite simple, make the law fit. Put in the law that if you come to this country and commit a crime, that in there should be that you are then returned to your country. But the problem is that I say is, where do you send them back to? That's the problem that you've got. Well, you're a criminal. If you've committed murder, you're a murderer. As far as
Criminals commit a crime in the US, they're going to send me back here. So there's no problem.
No, I'm just saying they all agree that there's one law for all.
You are
So I agree. It sounds as if you need to change the law and perhaps put a time limit or something. But I agree. But you have to change the law for everybody. So I agree with that. Yeah. Richard, did you want to answer that one?
Yes, please. One law for all British people. One law for all British people. That's the distinction. And if you happen to come, let's say, originally from the People's Republic of London, then you should be sent to prison back home in the People's Republic of London. So your question isn't logical, I'm afraid to say. It's one law for the British, and that's fine.
Richard, just technically, it's Londonistan now. That's official. London. It's a mixture of socialists. We'll have the Socialist Republic of Londonistan. These two ideologies are going to crash, but hopefully we're going to stop both of them from getting too powerful before they do that. One law for all still applies. When people come in to settle, or as visitors, or as refugees, which is a completely different thing. They're not immigrants at all. They are refugees who happen to usually go back to their country they were fleeing from for all their holidays once the benefits are paying for it. That is a sad but true observation. No, they made a promise when they entered to do certain things. We don't need to change the law. They already are doing this. They are saying they will not, they will not, they will not, they will not. So one law for all, mate. People who were born here did not make this. People who acquired their right to live here through other means did not sign such a document. These people are already in egregious breach. Chuck them out!
Mick, you wanted to ask something.
For nothing, let me get a chance. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Mick Kennedy and I come from Peterborough. Now, most of you ran 2 elections this year. I ran 4. Right. We got rid of Fiona. We had the farce of the EU elections, and then we had another farce of local elections, and then we had a by-election, which again was a farce. We got a certain amount of help from the National Party and from the Regional Party, finance, and we had a certain number of people came down and did a bit and helped. Without getting into it too deeply, why haven't we got somewhere where people can go and learn how to campaign, how to run elections? Because we haven't. And as far as I know, we never have had. We've had half-hearted things, which quite honestly, I went to one and it was a waste of bloody time. My language, I spent most of my working life working in construction. My language can get stronger.
It's all right, we understand it.
But the point is, I get frustrated. I'm a fat old cripple. And my sons served, one of them still serving, in 2 pounds.
Mike, I'm sorry to stop you, but I think your question is, what are we going to do about it?
What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because we're not doing anything at the moment.
Right. Yeah. Mike, your turn to start.
Yes, we should have training for people that want to go into local elections or even for Westminster elections. In Yorkshire, we did have a very good training programme set up. We had cameras, we could put them in a TV show, we could do everything with them. That just went by the by when the region changed, the regional organisation changed. I know Gerard tried to set up with Alan Graves, who was going to run it, I think, set him up to help, and that I don't think that ever took off. But to put somebody in a position where they're going into a council seat, they've got to know what they're going into, because it can be absolutely, very, very nasty for these people to go in face out, especially if you're going against Labour. Labour's the nastiest party you'll ever come across on the street. And if you're going to go up against them in the council chamber, you've got to know what you're doing. So there's got to be some training programme within the party. It's got to be set up. We've got to say to these people, we want you to stand for us, but we will help you when you get in, and help you to get in, and give you some support on that as well.
As a matter of fact, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, Richard?
Can I point out that the Socialists are not a touch on the Conservatives when it comes to being dirty?
Yes, but if you ever go nose to nose with one of them on the street, Labour are the worst party I've ever come across.
Well, the Conservatives are the worst I've ever come across. When I was on the council, I actually had Labour people coming congratulating me for what I'd said. They said it needed saying, but we weren't allowed to say it.
Right, Richard?
Yes, Mick and I just had a little conversation because I knew I'd seen him recently, and in fact it was because I came to Peterborough to help with the campaign there. And the issue of how to campaign, I'm going to provide tools for people that make it much easier. Guidelines, software, tools to actually do campaigning. Right now, there's an election address being printed and addressed and boxed and bundled in my home right now for the Brecon and Radnorshire election. And that's the second time now that I've done an election address at home, the hard way. And I'm intending to write software tools to enable everybody to actually do an election address for the cost of the leaflets instead of paying thousands of pounds as we do to put out an election address. Don't forget, election addresses save you thousands and thousands, £20,000 probably in a typical constituency. And in the last European election that we've just had, the large sum that was spent on 27 million leaflets actually earned us about probably maybe 10 million or 20 million pounds worth of actual postal delivery. So election addresses are key to this. So all of this stuff needs to be made available to people so that they can use it. It needs to be very easy to use. And we also need a team in the party to support people who are elected. So that as soon as anyone's elected, they get the tools. They get the tools to help.
You speak about Conservatives and Labour as if they're different. Don't fall for this. Two sides of the same coin. It's a sort of card trick type thing.
Mix red and blue and you get purple.
Right, indeed. I'm aware of that, but that's not really how we are. We're not left or right. It's a question of right and wrong. Yeah. Now, I've done 2 election addresses manually myself as well, so we're equal footing in this. Richard's a great guy. He's a software developer and programmer, so am I. Here, as a leader, though, generally one should be focusing on leading and delegating those tasks to those who are very competent at doing it. Very, very competent at doing it, and guiding if necessary. I was asked here in the break whether or not, because I'm something about parrots and mathematics, but I think it was polymath. Could I delegate? My entire line 58, I made that up on the 3rd page, tells you Digital Precision Limited. I produced 150 programs, 90 programmers, half of them even more eccentric than the average UKIPper. Of course I delegated, and I made them feel they were working with me, not for me. Very important, because the matter of pride is very important here. Now, the central point over here with this one is we have to be smarter in how we do things. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot in UKIP, and the problem has often come from the top. The grassroots suffer. Make the top actually work more efficiently. The grassroots say, wow, that's good, and we're more enthused. Thank you.
Since Freddie mentioned me in that response,
yes, I was going to say, absolutely.
Please, may I have a...
I think it was praise you got.
Praise. It was praise, but it was mentioned.
You said it was
purely praise.
I think honestly we are ready. And I don't want
it was praise, but I thought you'd grab that.
Extra time. Jax, you had a question, and this is going to, I'm sorry, this is going to be the last one, because then we're going to have them tell us why we're going to vote for them.
Right.
Okay.
Hi, for anyone who don't know, I'm Jack from the Wellingborough Committee. I had some very good candidates who stood for UKIP. We suffered verbal abuse, we suffered physical damage to our cars and property. The one thing I'm very disappointed in UKIP is there is never any legal action against a perpetrator. Head office never came and supported us. The management never did. We saw some violence this year in the EU campaign where milkshakes thrown, and Farage was a milkshake, and they took that person to court. They prosecuted him, and we keep getting called him racist here. Credit to Richard Trice from the Brexit Party. He sent off legal letters to say, no, we're not racist, and he's won that. Why doesn't UKIP do that? That's why the press have a free run with us. Why isn't UKIP issuing legal letters and saying we will make sure criminal prosecution happen here?
Right. Good. This end then. You start. Freddie?
Great, excellent. Well, I'm not certain we're not. But I know, I personally, when Joe Brand came up with that ridiculous stuff about battery acid, actually telling them how to do it. That's like telling them, get a bit of battery acid, get a bit of potassium permanganate, and just one other commonly available substance, and you've got an explosive mixture to make. She didn't quite say that, she just stopped at the battery acid, throw it. Now, I went to the police, I registered, I have a crime reference number, some of you will have seen my communications on this. It produced nothing. I got a standard victim support letter, and without the name, with the name of the investigating officer blank. And I know what that means. There's no investigating officer, there's no investigation. One day after it was announced that the police have decided not to charge her. There's another lady who was, I'm using the term very loosely, I won't mention her racial group or her religious group, but because I'm prudent. She put a whole lot of stuff about popping off pigs, white pigs need to be killed, and so on, and this, that, and the other. I've got this on the phone, 2 pages of it. She was about 23 years of age. I went to the police with it, and I spent 4 hours in the police station. They said, why do you think it's you that she's talking about? I said, it doesn't have to be me, but I actually fit the bill in these ways. Well, I am sort of a pig to her, I'm sure. And she was very skinny. But the net result took 2.5 months, and they did nothing. So, Jags, to some extent, they just won't help us. We can't, to bring prosecutions ourselves is very expensive, and what typically happens is the CPS takes them over and then drops them. So the problem is not just UKIP here, mate. It's UKIP's guilty of lots of things, but don't think we're too guilty on that one.
So can I just say, because obviously the question is, if you became the leader, would you put in a system of actually...
Maybe if the leader was able to do it, rather than somebody who's merely a regional chairman and therefore something somewhere between a grasshopper and a cricket.
I think that's what
yes, maybe it would have more say, and he could get on the mainstream media. I've been blocked from getting on the mainstream media, and that makes me jolly angry as well, because I'm the best attacked speaker that UKIP would ever
Right, Richard.
have.
Yes. Okay. One of the reasons why Richard Tice could do this is I understand he's in poverty and he's got a few bob, and so he can take on a case like that and be prepared to pay for the costs of his opponent if he loses. And I think we all know what happened with Jane Collins in this party, and the party got hit pretty hard with that. So we do have to be careful about this issue. And I don't see that there's any easy way for the party to help people in cases where, if it goes the wrong way, the costs are going to be extreme. One thing that I would say is, if you're going out canvassing, record, either on your phone or have a little camera. You can get them very cheaply now, but get a recording of what happens when you go out to leaflet or canvass, because it's very, very important if you have that very direct evidence of anything that's happened, and that will definitely help you if you've got to actually push this. Obviously, the leader of the party needs to try to get on the telly and say, look what they're doing to our supporters. Isn't it a disgrace? And are you not ashamed that you are effectively fascists trying to shut down political discourse in this country through violence?
Richard mentioned Jane Collins. Jane Collins was Yorkshire MEP with myself. This was over a Rotherham case of the kids there being raped and abused by the Muslim community, as it turned out was a Muslim community. The law states that if she'd said the Labour Party knew about this, the Labour Party couldn't do anything, because you can't libel a party. She said 3 MPs. That's why they took her to court. Richard Tice did the same thing. They're very, very smart, the Brexit Party. They've set this thing up. They're very smart, where the Scottish MEP, Alan Smith, had a pop and said it was all corrupt money and everything else. Well, if the party's more than 5 people, you cannot libel it. But because there's only Farage, Tice and one other, that was open for libel. So they took them to court because they had lots of money, and they won that case. It takes a lot of money to take somebody to court. We haven't got that money. We're defending ourselves time and time again. Anyway, we've got court cases going through now where we're defending ourselves and having to pay for that defence. But you cannot libel a party. It's just, it's in law, and it's just too expensive for us to do this. There's lots of people I'd love to take to court. I get slated all the time, but I can't do anything about it because I haven't got the money to take them to court. That's the
crowdfunding.
Yeah.
I did say it was going to be the last, but I've had a request from the floor that I allow a lady to ask a question because I've given all the questions to men. So I really can't do anything else, can I? Sorry, we wanted to ask a question. Can you stand so everyone can hear?
Yes, it was following on particularly from Mike's point about having the main part of the party, the ordinary grassroots of the party, having more say in what happens in UKIP. Is anyone prepared to do what almost happened last conference and give the membership a vote on whether Tommy Robinson should be allowed to join?
I think you'd have to. I think the answer to that is that I think for this coming up conference, we are trying to put in a proper section for debate, for motions. Some are coming in through the internet, where you will have seen that you can send up those questions. They do have to be approved by the NEC. So by all means, send it in. It's always better, well, for a proper motion, you have to be supported by your group, your branch, and be able to speak on it.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, are you going to open up the party to more grassroots democracy?
As the Constitution is at the moment, he was a member of the EDL, or whichever it was, and he has stood against us, and both of those things ban him from being a member, I think.
With respect, Marietta, she didn't ask that question.
It's whether the grassroots of the party start having says on things like that. Now, that was withdrawn last year at the last minute. Now, that was to do with the chairman and the NEC actually taking power back. Are you actually prepared to have a debate on this and to have a vote on this and similar issues?
Right, we'll ask the candidates that then, because we do have the problem with the Constitution.
Yes.
As I keep coming up against, because I keep suggesting things like...
As Mariette said, it's in the Constitution, so if you did this, you'd have to change the Constitution. It's a prescribed list, which I won't change, and I think Richard earlier said he wouldn't change that anyway, and Gerard Batten wouldn't change. He said he'd never get rid of that prescribed list. That served us many, many times in public debate. I personally wouldn't open it up. He's on the prescribed list. And there's many other people. I've had people leafleting for me that's been BNP before now, and I've said, well, I'm sorry, but you can't stand because you're on the prescribed list, or you can't join the party. And I would stick to that. That prescribed list is absolutely fantastic. It's saved us many, many times in debate, and it's saved us many times with the media. I wouldn't allow him in. I would vote against it, but I don't think, I wouldn't allow it. I'm being honest. I'm being honest as a leader, I want to open it up.
About party democracy.
Yes,
and that's
but the democracy, we've got that prescribed list, and he's on that prescribed list. So we're going to change the prescribed list and open up a debate for one man.
How long is somebody on the prescribed list?
Sorry?
How long is somebody on the prescribed list?
Forever. If he's joined that party, if he's been in a party that's on that prescribed list, then forever.
Can we quickly let the other two answer the question, and then they can do their closing speeches?
Can we get some facts right there, please, Marietta?
Sorry?
Can we get some facts right on this? Those parties are named and prescribed, but the Constitution does allow for exceptions to be made as decided by the leader of the
The only time, as I understand it, there was an exception was when somebody was discovered at the very last minute to have been on the prescribed list. He was standing for something, and he was actually being given a week to live. So they did an exception for that.
Yes.
Yes. But I think that was a very exceptional exception. And beyond that, I don't think there ever has been. Can we let them finish? Yeah. I'm sorry. That's how I've understood it.
Okay. The answer is this. I'm going to build a policy forum that everybody will have access to. And one of the best changes that I think could happen in the party is if the leader and the NEC are required to debate the most popular issue, let's say every couple of months. So if the membership wants something, they should have the power to put it in front of the leadership, in front of the NEC, and make them actually debate it and talk about it. So yes, would be the answer. Don't forget that BNP members are in the Tory party, they're in the Labour party, they're not in this party, or at least they can't join this party. There may be some old members who've been in UKIP for a long time. The EGM process that we have for changing the Constitution is very difficult. A couple of years ago we tried to change the Constitution. We only got 60 or so branches to get the motion through, and we needed 83 because of the rules in the Constitution. So it's very difficult. The issue of a time limit, certainly lots of people put that forward, and I would certainly be open to a debate on that. Personally, I don't see that there is a huge amount to gain from Tommy joining. I think that he does what he does exceptionally well.
Yeah.
I think this party does what it does exceptionally well. There are plenty of people in this party who don't want him to join. The issue is very divisive. We all know that. We've all debated it. And I don't see what the gain is. But yes, essentially, if the members had a power to put this in front of the party, then I don't see why that shouldn't happen. But I do worry that it might be a very, very divisive issue for the party, and I don't see a great need for it. And by the way, I'm someone that actually turned up at the Old Bailey a few weeks ago because I do think that what Tommy and other people talking about those things are saying is very important, and we need to listen to them. So that's my position.
That's a very good point, but it isn't just about Tommy. It's about the ordinary members having a greater say, really. I mean, could they have a vote on whether the Constitution gets changed?
And you know, if you want to change the Constitution, it has to be done by law, and it costs a fortune, and we haven't got the money. Come up with time.
Can I answer?
It's simple, right?
Can we all just answer that specific point? Because I mean, you've raised another specific point. I think we all need to answer this. We've just seen our ex-party leader barred from standing in this leadership election when he was easily the favourite to win it. That's the fact of it. And I went on television a month ago saying the reason I don't join the Brexit Party is because I love UKIP, because UKIP's democratic and we vote on everything. We vote on our chairman, we vote on our leaders, we get rid of leaders we don't like. We're a democratic... Our branch chairman, sorry, let me correction. Our branch chairman. So I said we vote on everything, and I support UKIP because it's the most democratic party in this country. And now I have egg on my face because a month later, after going on television and saying that, the NEC has stopped someone from standing in our leadership. And, you know, I think that you could argue that if the membership have a right, they have a right to choose who's allowed to stand in leadership rather than the NEC.
Well, that was a democratic vote by the NEC.
Richard's adequately dealt with that matter. Section 13 of our Constitution deals with how to change the Constitution itself. If you read that, you'll find there are 3 ways, depending on whether the NEC agree in full, want to chop it up in bits, or the NEC don't want to cooperate. Written as it is, it's actually impossible to change it if the NEC don't agree to it, because it places a majority which we would never be able to get, because it's of all members, not just all members voting. Some people argue, no, you will let me finish, please. Right, so hopefully a lawyer will tell us that that rule is actually wrong, it can't be interpreted that way, otherwise it places a burden which is impossible. The percentage quoted, this is a decisive majority, not of all members voting, but of all members. And since half of them don't vote in these things, that becomes technically impossible. So hopefully we can get a legal opinion so things can be changed. We can't have a constitution that can't be changed without the permission of the NEC, because that's just silly. But this is an expensive process. Tommy Robinson, as far as I understand, does not want to join UKIP. By the way, that's just another common sense thing. Now, I too, since Richard mentioned this, please don't start ringing the bell at me because I have to answer. I've got 3 rights of rebuttal now. I went to the Court of Appeal last August. I stood there and with something in mind, I brought in a county chairman in case I was arrested and she could go out and tell the others why Freddie went in and never came out from the other door. I decided to say this, not because the court had done anything wrong at this stage, and I'm a law-abiding person. I tried to comply with the law here. I made a statement when the court was adjourned and when the 3 judges each had retreated through a door behind them. That's what they do, including the Lord Chief Justice in the middle. And the statement I made, now I'm not going to shout because it will frighten you, but it had to be delivered in a clear voice because it made no sense unless the Lord Chief Justice heard me and saw me with my UKIP rosette, which had been placed on as well. I was making a political statement. And I said, it is not, right, so that he had retreated. He was outside the door was shutting. And I said, in about this volume of voice, the Court of Appeal is about twice the area of this room. It is not the citizen who should be afraid of the state. It is the state who should be terrified of the citizen. He paused and he looked down. Some naive people suggested he looked down out of shame. His Lord Chief Justice, that's an absurdity. No, he looked down to see where his feet were, because had they been in the court, I'd been hauled out. without question. The usher told me not to leave. The lady I'd asked to come in to keep an eye on this was then probably worked out why I had done this. So I'm willing to fight for this as well and take risks. There is no clear precedent. I believe he was outside the court. We are fighting on the Tommy Robinson matter. We are fighting on principle, whether it was Tommy or not, or even a lefty, even a BBC employee, even one of these common purpose graduates, whatever. We are fighting on principle, but we can't make this the entire reason for our existence. Otherwise, we are a street protest party down a narrow road called the Old Bailey, because there'd be plenty more of them. We can't make it. I know that. I am perhaps mischaracterising it.
Can we have those two very quick questions?
Just before we move on from that, can I support Sandra's question here? Because who decides what the party is? Who knows what the membership is? If you don't ask them things. There was a clear divide between people that supported Gerard's stance and people that didn't. Now, how will you know how that splits?
Move a motion in conference.
I think it is an amazing
Which
statement.
gets withdrawn, Freddie, at the last minute.
It's a statement of pure arrogance for the leadership to say, we are not that sort of party. What sort of party?
We are a libertarian party according to the Constitution.
What sort of
I understand, sir, but we make the speeches. I understand your point is very valid. I largely agree with you. We are a libertarian party, says the Constitution. Don't like it, change it. Section 13 of the Constitution, read. It's there. You can change it. Doesn't matter what the NEC say. You can, because
it depends on the NEC.
No, because that last clause is
Personally, I think the party being able to make their statement is very good. What we can do with it afterwards is something we have to sort out. Can we have those two quick questions and then we'll have the last two finished? Yeah?
What I'd like to ask is the people putting themselves forward as the leaders, will the other people who are being leaders who don't get in support him around 100%? Because in 2010, when Nigel Farage got in as the party leader, three of them backed out straight away. They told us, they were saying, vote for them because they'll pack up otherwise. We said, well, they better pack up. So what's the sense in having hustings like this if the people who are going into the party are saying, well, I didn't get it, I'm going?
Yeah, very good question. And can we have the one from behind you at the same time? And then we can answer those.
But not one of you is saying how you're going to get the party, how you're going to get the donors to put the money into the party.
Yeah, that's a very good point, but I'm not sure we've got time to cover it at the moment. Yeah. Perhaps they can write it and put it up on the website or something. Right, yeah. I agree entirely about I hope you're all going to stay in the party. I think you are all solid party members, actually. Yeah, am I right? Yeah, all right, Richard, you go first.
Can I go first? Okay, several things to deal with there. Will I support the others? Yes, I've supported Nigel Farage, Diane James, Paul Nuttall, even Henry Bolton, Gerard Batten, and I've always put my with Bolton. I did then join the campaign to get rid of him because he proved to be a saboteur, I would say. So the next issue is. The issue of access. Finance. I'm the only candidate that's had a meeting with the Treasurer in the last month. None of the other candidates, even the ones who've stood down, have bothered to go and actually find out what state the party's finances are actually in with the Treasurer, actually work out who we pay, how we're going to go on paying them, and what the situation is as regards income from membership, from donations, from legacies, and from all of that stuff. I'm the only one.
Excuse me, I had lots of them on a week ago.
And let me make one other point. When Anne-Marie Waters came second in 2017, I went to her hotel after she stormed out of the conference, and I pleaded with her for 10 minutes not to leave the party, and I said, you're a valuable person, you've got a lot to contribute, you've got charisma, lots of people listen to you, and you've got important things to say, and the party needs good people like you to stay on board and stay with us. And sadly, she did listen to me, and her entourage was around and so on, but sadly she chose to go off and start another party. I can assure you I won't be doing that.
But you haven't answered the question how you're going to get the funds. So you said you've been to the Treasurer, how you're going to get money into the party.
Well, the first thing is I'm going to approach existing patrons, some of whom need reassurance that the party is actually has a real future and is going to do well.
Richard, can I suggest all of you answer that?
I'll talk to you afterwards. I can talk to you about it afterwards.
Or put it on the website or something, because I really am, we could be able to tell them.
Of course I'm going to stay in the party. I've stayed through all the leaders who Richard mentioned, and one who he forgot in the middle, who Richard stayed through as well, which was Suzanne Evans very briefly before the NEC decided not to approve her. But, and so this is going to be, I don't think we're going to differentiate between any of the candidates on this. We're not going to run off immediately. Finance. I've actually answered this already, sir, because when I got late to Tiverton because I was somewhere right at the other end of the country talking to potential donors. I trained as an accountant with Ernst and Young. I have city connections when they currently won't touch us with a barge pole. Many of those people, we don't want to touch them with a barge pole either, but there are, however, many who we would. And we don't want, just £100 donations won't do it. There needs to be big donors who are willing to put big sums in right now. They don't want to be tainted. That's the words they're using, not the words I'm using, and I'm telling them, no, they're not. By the way, Anne-Marie, Richard did mention, I went to Anne-Marie and I met her afterwards as well, because people calling Anne-Marie a racist, etc. is just ridiculous. She isn't. She's misguided in how she bangs on about Islam all the time.
Yeah.
Because I want to apologise, because we've got to go a long way.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for being here, sir.
Quickly, if you can.
Very quickly, Richard, I had lunch with Mark Harland. I had nice spaghetti bolognese with him just outside of Bridlington, just over a week ago. So he was a little bit disingenuous with that one. Bringing new membership in would bring money in, and that would be coming into a party that you've got confidence in, that's got policies that you can follow. Bringing in donors that we've lost, lots and lots of the big donors, the Christopher Mills, the huge donors. This party needs £5 to £6 million to run it properly and to win elections. Bringing those back in is getting confidence again back in the party, giving them the right policies that they will have support for. And I'm going to be very, very honest with you, and you're not going to like it, because this question came up last night. I've supported this party since 2007, and as I've said, I've had lots of jobs throughout the party, but if this party goes on the road that it's going, I will not be part of that. I want a successful party that's going to win elections, that I am proud to go out there on the streets and campaign for. And I'm being very honest about that, and that is what my thoughts are.
You're a newcomer. I've been fighting Europe since 1973.
Well done, sir. I would have done, but I was serving in the Gulf at the time.
Right, I'm now going to ask then, we started, I think, with Richard and went to Mike and ended up with Freddie. So if we do it the other way round, if Freddie does his final 2 minutes, and then Mike, and then... For 2 minutes.
2 minutes indeed. I'm happy that Mike has acknowledged that he would stay on if I won the leadership contest, because the party certainly will have a major change in perceived direction under my leadership. And Mike it would be heartbreaking if he left. That is simply true. Spirit and heart of the country. It is also, would be my certainty that Richard would stay on as well, and we would continue to work competitively and happily together. I'm his regional chairman. He is my best activist in London, and probably quite a bit beyond London as well. A better description of me has been written by Stuart Agnew, who does not blush when writing it. I would blush had I written this myself. You've got it, that's over here. That's what I am, sir. I don't give up easily. I don't give up because I think I'm losing, because sometimes we set an example to others. I would hope to bring the party together, the warring factions together, so we don't have further divisions. I'm told I talk too much, so I'm going to talk very little. Trust me, we have to fight this one. We are the thin purple line. There's no one else there but us. That's just us. Relying on the Brexit party, I'm differentiating what I hope and what I expect. I know they're recruiting councillors, not just by poaching our ones. They might be there for a long time or intend to. Nigel, more than Lord Farage of the Cotswolds, I would think he wants to be Prime Minister. And if he sees a way, he will go for it there. And we will be the first casualty. We are needed there to keep everything honest. The threat of a resurgent UKIP is a very real one. We came from nothing to a lot. Now we're nearly nothing again, percentage-wise, not in spirit and heart. We need to get back up there and get them scared. There's only two things that they will respond to, and fear is one of them. The other one is greed, greed for power and money. By brokering this, we can get great again, and you will all be proud to be UKIP. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me do the task. I know what needs to be done. Just let me do it.
You might get extra time. Very quickly, I believe I'm the man to lead this party. I want to see it prosper, I want to see it go forward, I want to see it become an electoral threat once again, and we do that by putting out, as I've said all night long, by putting out policies that people will vote for. Do that, we will get people into Westminster seats, but more importantly, we have to start on the ground level and get people into council seats. On my first job, as I've said tonight, as leader, I would make the Newport conference in September an EGM, which you could then, the people, the membership, could then put whatever they wanted to put forward and put it through and make it become a reality. And if that's the way you want to go with the proposal you want, then so be it. But it would be the membership that voted on that, and it would go through an EGM, which is the only way we can do this. We have to change the way this party is going. We have to change the NEC and make it become a regional NEC and put some real voices and the voices of the membership in there, and so that the leadership hear what you people are saying. And I would do that, and that's how I need to push this party forward. We can do this, we can win seats, we can get back to where we was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, before all these new leaders came in and trashed the party, you know, the Boltons and everybody else, absolute idiots. But we need to get back to where we was, being an electoral threat. I am the man that can do that.
Do you want everyone who supports Gerald to lead your party?
If that's what they want to do, yeah. It's up to you. We need those people in.
Is that what you want?
No, it's not what I want. I want to be an electoral threat to Labour and Tories once again.
So people, are you going to listen to those people then?
Come on,
if that's what they want to do, if they want to go to this EGM that I'm putting forward at the conference, and that's what they want to deliver, this is the membership speaking. It's up to them.
Right, Richard?
I don't believe that's the way they'll go.
First of all, let me say that what Mike's just promised is unconstitutional. Yes. He doesn't have the power to call an EGM, so that's not going to happen. As you may know, I didn't want to stand against Gerard. I think he's served the party extremely well. No leader gets everything perfectly right. He knows that. One of the things that held him back was that we haven't done as well as he'd hoped, and the Brexit Party has done well. But he's a good man, he's served the party well, and we all have a lot to thank him for. I asked Gerard on last Friday if he would be my deputy, and on Sunday night he said yes. So if I'm elected, Gerard will be my deputy, and he will be on the telephone for me, and I will consult him on a lot of things, because he's got a great head on his shoulders, and he's got 27 years of experience, and he knows Brexit like almost nobody else, and so I will be consulting with him. We've got a fantastic manifesto. Go and read it again. It's brilliant. It's the best manifesto of any party in this country. It's full of fantastic policies that will improve Britain for all of us. So we should stand by it, and we should have the courage and the determination to go onto the media and defend it, and not apologise for it, and not retreat from it, but actually defend it and say, this makes sense and I believe in it. And this is why it makes sense, and this is why you should take it seriously. Very quickly, I'm going to fix the internal communications in this party with a forum that allows people to vote. And that's the solution partly to the problem you're talking about. There may be constitutional change as well, and I hope so. But you're absolutely right that the leadership and the NEC need to be much more in touch with the members. I'm going to provide software methods, as I've talked about and mentioned. I can demonstrate that to anybody in the bar afterwards, and do come and talk to me. I'd love to talk to you all. I want you to cast your minds back to that moment, whether it was midnight on the 23rd of June 2016, when you saw the Sunderland result come in, and you knew then we're tipped to win this, or if it was the next morning you heard the result. Remember that we changed the world, without MPs, without government, but we changed the world, and we can win again. We will win again if you elect me.
Thank you Freddie. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Helena, for coming up. And thank you, Ben. I wonder if you've had your baby. Now, thank you all very much for coming. I think it's fantastic. You've come from quite a long way. You've come from Doncaster. You've come from Northampton. You've come from Worth. You've come from the other side of Leicester. So thank you all very much, and north of the region. So thank you all very much. It's been great having you all here. I think it's been a great debate. We're only half an hour over time. So thanks very much. Good luck with your voting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie.